Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. Dave Emmons, A Strange Reality. And it sure is a strange reality. I think what's going on today in our country and other countries is strange with all the riots and all the protests. And we got about 50 different flags that are flying in our country. Now, we don't, there's only one flag as far as I'm concerned, okay? But let's don't get into politics. That's a little bit too far. What I want to really talk about are the enlighten people about what's really going on out there with the UFOs, since disclosure is a drip, 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 and I don't think it's really going to come out because the powers to be have put their foot down on it, and they said, "Okay, enough's enough. We're not going to let people know what's going on here because we're utilizing that technology already. So we don't want them to know what we've been utilizing." So that's my theory. That's just a theory, and it's just for educational purposes only platforms. Okay, so but I guess I don't like getting into humor when it comes to people who's had experiences, and I do admire the experiencers who come forward and talk about what's going on in their world with ETs and UFOs, and it's not a funny matter. It's kind of scary. I know I've been there and I've done it myself, and it's not fun. But it draws you into it deeper and deeper and deeper, and you can't get out of it. It's like the curiosity that kills the cat, and us experiencers are the cats. So we're curious about what the heck is going on after we've been bitten. We're looking for that second bite, not a bite, ordinarily, but something else that we can put our sink our teeth into. Well, on the strange reality here, that's what we're doing. And my guest today is Dan Schroeder. Dan, he's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and he moved up there in Michigan, and I guess he works with things that I don't know if I want to mention right now, but I'll let him mention it and what he does. And ever since he's a kid, he's always loved aliens, ET, Sasquatch, the paranormal, and other mysteries. He said he's had an onboard experience on a UFO as a teenager that radically shifted his paradigm and worldview at the time. He said his interest in aliens continued forward, amplified and empowered with the knowledge that the ETs were absolutely real and a part of our extended humanoid family, and that's for sure. At 24 years of age, he had an out of body near death experience after being stabbed in the chest a couple of inches away from his heart. Oh, wow, that's bad, Dan. During my NDE, I met Source, all that is God, and was given a choice to go back to Earth and reincarnate again, or to stay there in that perfect divine white light filled with eternal love and light. I remember saying that I had more to do here on Earth, and I said that I wanted to go back. And then I woke up in the hospital back in my body. He spent most of the time then focused on his first finding and now fulfilling his destiny. It took him several challenging years to get here and find that destiny, but now he knows exactly how close and why he has come back and what is he supposed to do. And he's got some kind of a mission to do, and I think we all have that as experiencers. And I want to let him take it off from here. Dan Schroeder, you say you're the first contact Earth ambassador, and your mission is to be one of the first humans to make contact with extraterrestrial beings and dimensional beings. Now, could you fill us in on that and why you feel that way? And with all the experiences you've had, I know that's probably on top of your mind. Dan Schroeder, take it away, buddy.
Thank you so much, Dave. It's a real honor to be here and share some of my experiences with you and your audience. Um, so, yeah, since I started reaching out to the extraterrestrials, I have had many different experiences that have changed my world paradigm view since the near death experience. Um, when I had the near death experience, it was kind of like afterwards, anyway, it was kind of like I was just on a mission to find out what my purpose was because I knew I had this special purpose and that I had made this agreement and I had to come back and do something. And it took me a number of years basically to get to um, the point where I chose to, declare myself as a first contact Earth ambassador. There are a number of us on planet Earth, spread out throughout this planet, making contact in our own ways, just like I'm doing. And since I discovered this path of destiny and began reaching out to the stars, I have actually had like hundreds of different encounters with extraterrestrial crafts, mostly in the sky, um, and a number of different spiritual awakenings. Um, I employ a number of different contact modalities in order to make contact with the extraterrestrials. I use something called CE-5 that's been popularized by Dr. Stephen Greer. It involves coherent thought sequencing. I also use forms of energy work, meditation, dancing, breath work, Western ceremonial magic, and I often work with crystals and crystal skulls in sacred rituals.
Right. That was you caught the show last week, and that's how we made contact. I want to go back. I know a lot of people will be very interested when you're 24 years old and you were stabbed. Why were you stabbed? Were you robbed or in some kind of a gang situation?
No, it was some confusion. I was at a party over like a Labor Day weekend, and there was some intoxicated people, and it's it's I don't know if we should go too deep into it, but basically I was stabbed close to my heart, and I lost consciousness several times, and was taken to the hospital, the emergency room down in Milwaukee at that time. And then when I got into the emergency room, they were like investigating what was going on, and they had to like stick their hands inside the wound and stuff like that in order to feel around and see what was injured, because they couldn't give me any kind of medications or anything at that point, because they didn't know what had been injured or anything. So they were doing that, and it was like really, really painful for me. It's kind of like one of the most traumatic sort of things you could kind of imagine being in. And so it was, really, really painful. And I remember them just telling me, over and over, like, you have to do it. You just have to, and kind of encouraging me and like coaching me into like, just, keep doing, like cooperating with what they were trying to do. It was really intense. They're shoving tubes down me and stuff like that. But in that whole chaotic scene, though, I popped right out of my body. Is the only way I could say it. My consciousness, my essence, left my body. As soon as I left my body, I floated up, what felt like floating up, right above it, and I could actually see my body at that point, and my body looked like it was awake, and it was still screaming. In fact, like it was in pain. But I was no longer. I felt nothing at that point. I was just like, the most relieving, like comforting feeling you could possibly imagine.
Mm.
And I floated through the ceiling, basically, is what it felt like to me, but it was just like floating up. And then I emerged in this beautiful white light, is the best way that I could describe it. It felt like the most beautiful, loving feeling that I can ever describe. Just the most blissful, pure love feeling that you could possibly imagine. And it was like I was in this whole room or environment, like that was endless and boundless and infinite. And it was all white light everywhere. And it was like there was no walls or ceiling or anything like that, but it was just this huge infinite space of beautiful white light. And I dwelled there for however long. It was like timeless while you're there. But then at some point, I remember saying, you know, that I have more to do here, and I wanted to go back. And then I made an agreement to come back.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to take you back to that near death event, because that's a lot of people get started in the UFO area and the ET area when they see their first UFO or an ET approaches them by their bedside or whatever, and that gets them started. But what started you was a near death experience. And that's why I wanted to go back to that, because a lot of people are really fascinated by the near death experience, and people who come back and tell their stories about what happened is very very compelling. And people, it's just like me. I wanted to know more about that near death experience. That not so much what happened at first, but we had to go that route to get you into that near death experience to let people know what happened to you. So that changed your mind and how your direction. And then you got involved with the UFOs and ETs right after that. Is that right?
Yeah, mostly. The only thing I would say is that like my I was always involved with with my interest in aliens, extraterrestrials, whatever, UFOs and stuff like that. And I had had a teenage onboard experience with them. So that part had always been cemented in for me. It was just that like when I had I had kind of, it's not that I had let any of that go, but I was, moving on with my life and doing other things. And I guess, that wasn't on the forefront of my, of my, like right in front of me at that time. So, but the near death experience brought it back for me because it made me question everything. I mean, when you realize that this is not just a physical world, basically, and you can actually know that unequivocally like I do, it changes everything, and not only that, but like everything you do matters also. So from that, like from that, like once you realize that, it's a tremendous just inspiration.
Right. You experience another dimensional change. You go from this world to another dimension. A lot of people call it heaven or whatever, purgatory. And I don't believe there is a hell. I think hell is right here on earth, actually, in a way. I'm not, I know a lot of people argue with me about that, but it basically is. And because you experience things. I've experienced being lighter than air and floating, and it was a tremendous, great feeling, like to float over the trees and everything. I don't know if that was near death. I've had a couple of near death things in the hospital. All I remember are clouds and blue skies and clouds, and I was floating, and it felt really good. But I didn't go as far into the near death experiences as you did. Uh, Now, a lot of people, and I know this also, that people have seen like people that look like extraterrestrial on the other side, in these other dimensions, so dimensional beings, I guess you could call it. Did you see any like that, Dan?
I didn't see any beings in my near death experience. Just what I would call source.
Okay. Uh, Now you're saying here that your diplomat relationships in order to ascend in the age of Aquarius in the best possible way. You're making contact. Let's go back here. This I want to start on. You mentioned this just a while ago about being on board with a close encounter with extraterrestrials in 1999. Could you explain that?
Sure, absolutely. So I was at an event, a camp out event with music and festivities, and I had retreated into my tent for the evening to go to sleep and rest. And as I was just winding down, like a what I would describe as a uh, like I guess I should explain too that like I was in like a really it was my first ever experience at a music festival like that, and I was only 17 years old, and so I was like in this really excited state basically, and I was very happy to be there, and so that was a part of what drew the experience to me, I believe. So that's why I'm saying that. Um, so anyway, after I retreated to my tent, I'm just like, having a great time in my life. And I'm just like, really loving being there. And this mist, this like fog starts opening up around me, like immersing me in fog and mist, basically. And it was a really eerie feeling. And I could feel like, like there was energy moving through me, and I could feel that something strange was happening. And after a few moments of this mist getting thicker and thicker and thicker, the like this, it looked like the sides of my tent expanded outward, and then I was no longer in like this little square tent, and all of a sudden I was in this octagon room, and I was on like a metal table, and as I'm on this metal table, and there's this mist still around me, but I can see these octagon walls, these beings emerged from out of the mist. And then they basically explained to me that they are my family, and they kept like explaining that they're like my real family, is how they said it to me, like over and over again, repeatedly. um,
What did these ETs look like? Were they the little grays like a lot of people see, or
Yeah, they were very similar to that, although they were like, as far as their shape and their like humanoid, shape, and like the head with the large eyes and the almondy eyes and like a real small nose and a small mouth, right? But they were green, not gray.
yeah?
And they had like, I would describe these as having longer arms than other like beings I've seen descriptions of, I guess I would say. And they were like, they moved in what I would describe as like a fluidy way, almost like liquidy in a sense. Like it was like a semi like a semi astral movement or something, I guess you could call it.
And that happened in 1999, and your near death experience happened in 2006. Do you think maybe I have to give sometimes I think they mess with me in bed. Sometimes they do these bedside abductions, and I would think that they manipulate DNA and they mess around with with the eggs and semen and things of this nature. But they also, I've been told by a lot of people who are experts in the field and they've studied this medically. I've also been told that sometimes they tweak your health. And do you think that they might have helped you make it through that near death experience, Dan?
Well, I mean, I think that the power for like life and death is within us, and it is up to us ultimately what we choose, because we're all here. The way I see it is like we all have sort of like a destiny and a contract, if you will, that we're kind of put here to discover and find. We kind of are placed here with amnesia, and we have to find that path. So I would say that like that was just part of my, path of destiny, and it was just up to me to choose to accept and take it and fulfill it at that time.
Right. Yeah, we do have the choice. I wanted to tell people that are watching and listening now that your background are pictures of actual ships that you've taken pictures of with your camera. And you said that a lot of them are color coded, and those are messages that they give. And there have been a lot of UFOs, and a lot of people have seen different colors like green, orange, red, that type of thing. And it looks like you have all those colors, and white, of course. It looks like you have all those colors that other people have seen. I've seen orange. I've seen white light mostly with my UFO encounters, bright white lights like you have in some of the top row there. But people have seen different colors. And you were telling me a while ago that's kind of a message that you get. And since you started reaching out to ETs and other forms of non-human intelligence, you have had your world paradigm has changed many times. And do you think that these UFOs or ETs are talking to you in colors, Dan, or giving you some kind of symbolic gestures on this?
Yes, I the colors are very important, and they do have meaning, and there's all meaning behind everything that the extraterrestrials do.
Mhm.
So, and it's usually multifaceted, I would say too. So the colors are usually, first of all, signifying the density of the beings within the craft. So when you see a multicolored craft, that's telling you that there are multiple different civilizations within that craft from different levels of density.
Well, that's I haven't heard that before. That's a good theory. I mean, looks like you've done a little studying on this. You're going to show some pictures and also some videos here pretty soon, and we're going to share that with you. But I wanted to get some of the basics down. A lot of people and myself, I feel a spiritual connection whenever I have an experience. And you mentioned here that you've had multiple spiritual awakening experiences. Could you tell us some of those spiritual feelings? A lot of people say, well, ETs are demonic. Not all of them. There might be some bad ones, just like us humans. There's good and there's bad. But I think to me, I've had a lot of spiritual, I mean, euphoric type of feelings. And Dan, is that how you felt also in a lot of these experiences?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, all positive, all, benevolence, and my experience, I was initially blessed with that experience in 1999 that opened up my eyes and my world and taught me that, like, I don't have to fear the extraterrestrials. Now, even with that experience, I still was apprehensive, I would say, before, for several years, even after finding, like believing that this was what I was supposed to do. It was still hard for me to even like, kind of get there. But like you said, everything or every experience that you had has been positive. The same with me. So every experience that I had was positive, and also like the way that I initially started or stumbled upon this, was I was watching Stephen Greer stuff like years ago in the early 2010s, and he was talking about this idea of CE-5 and coherent thought sequencing. And one day I just went outside and I thought, well, let's see if it does anything. I mean, if it's real, I'll find out, And so I just looked up at the sky and I said, in my head, I just said, if there's any extraterrestrials out there that are peaceful and that want to make, peaceful contact with humans in like a peaceful way, I kept stressing that part of it, right? But, by all means, make yourself known. Let's say hello, And not 2 minutes later, right above me, I started getting flashes, signal flashes,
Hmm.
from like a white light just started flashing above me. And I had never seen anything like that before. But I looked up online because I didn't even know what you were supposed to look for in, CE-5 or anything like that. I just
So
heard,
Dan, you're kind of self-studied in CE-5. You never went to any of the classes that Dr. Greer has had or any of the observation groups that he's been involved in. I know those are expensive. It's cheaper to home study the CE-5 methods.
oh
And
yeah,
so that's I guess that's what you did, right? I'm sorry to butt in like that, Dan. Go ahead.
yeah, it's all good. I couldn't afford any of the Dr. Greer stuff. So, but yeah, you don't need any of that. And that's for like, I don't know, people that have money for it, I guess. Don't worry about that. You don't need it. If you're thinking about doing this, you really don't. All you need is an open heart and an open mind, truly. Because if you, like I believe basically that you match with the vibration of whatever you're putting out. Okay. So if you're asking for some kind of connection like that, as long as you're of a peaceful vibration, you're going to attract a peaceful being. So that's the way I see it. I don't, I don't really even worry about anymore or think anymore about the dark side or dark, extras or anything like that, because to me, those are all on alternative timelines, is how I would put it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I see the same thing. I saw a video just here, and I can't remember the name of it, but I it was sent to me, and it was talking about frequencies, and it says we each have a different frequency. I've known that for some time, and I think that's how ETs find us. They can find us anywhere. They found me in Alaska. They found me in Illinois. They found me in Arizona. So it doesn't matter where you go. They can track you down by your frequencies, and each person has its own frequency. If you run into a frequency is just like like your frequency, then you have a harmonic frequency, and that's what resonates. I would imagine that's when you can actually your both sides of your brain is actually giving out frequencies, and you're able to look into the future or into your memory. And I can't explain. I have to watch the video again to get the details, but it was pretty exciting that to see this where it matches frequencies, and frequencies is what it's all about. They're actually saying that we're holographic, we're not real, that matter isn't real. What do you think about that? Are we a matrix, Dan? Are we like the movie with Keanu Reeves and that type of thing? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a great way of thinking about it too. Truly, because yeah, I do think that we are all within source, and we are all holographic fractals of source in essence. So yeah, we fully contain all of the essence of source within us, but we're all reflections of source, and we're all existing within source. And I would say that like I have my reality and you have your reality, and we're sharing this reality together with all these other people who are sharing their realities. But we all create our own individual reality, and within source, and that's basically sources is the purpose of source is to experience, period. So that's why we exist, to
Right.
experience for source.
And the only thing that really matters in all of us is our soul and our spirit and our essence. That's what really matters, and that's what travels away. Our body is left here, so our bodies are actually holographic in a way. Where anything you think is solid, you can touch it. It's really not a solid. They explained it about the electrons make up that feeling of solidity and something that's solid in your body. If it wasn't for electrons, we'd all be able to, or if there's an increase in frequency, you could walk through walls. And that's how ETs do it. And I have walked through a door myself, and I felt it, felt the heat and everything walking through. It's because the ETs are able to raise your frequencies where you can do this and you can get through matter. Now, when it gets down to, I guess, you having contact with these ETs, now you talk to some of them. Is that right? Did I get that right, Dan? That you have communicated with some of these extraterrestrials?
In some cases, I would say I mostly get in some of the sightings I'll get visions on sometimes is how I would put it more. And yeah, but I also am communicating to them in my rituals and in my prayers and things like that, and in my own meditations and that kind of way.
It says here you had a hybrid UFO craft and you got videos and pictures. And in July of 2022, you recorded your first hybrid extraterrestrial craft. Would you be ready to run that video now and do a share program? Let's do that now, and because we're at that point in your notes that we can go to that. Okay, and just hit your share button.
All right.
Now that's your craft that you saw that's in colors. And you kind of gotten them a little bit larger in scale. Could you talk about some of these colors of these craft before we get into that video, I guess?
Sure. So this is the backcraft, okay? And this image right here, if you can see the mouse,
Hmm.
see the mouse, Dave?
Yeah, it's I see like two eyes and a mouth there. Yeah,
Can you see my mouse on the screen?
yeah, I see your mouse. Yeah, that the picture actually kind of looks like a mouse too, but it's a craft.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just want to make sure you can see it. So,
I
so
can
the
see.
craft is, yeah, the craft is like this. It looks kind of like a bat. Here, I'll go to the next image here. So this image right here is the closest image of what this craft actually looked like physically to my naked eye. And although it was black in color, it was jet black,
Okay, that's
and it looked
a
so it looked like
triangle craft, right?
it's it looks shaped like a bat. It's got the two wings out and just like that. So this craft was shooting what I would describe as lasers or linear concentrated light ahead of it as it was traveling, and it would disappear from the place where it was, and it would reappear at the edge of where it had just shot the laser beams forward.
Right.
So it would like leapfrog ahead, disappearing and reappearing in front of me. So it was a totally unique thing. I've never seen anything like that before or heard of anything like that before. I was like really shocked. And when I saw that, I did have a vision of it actually flying through space, and I was able to like see it flying through space. It was
Right.
amazing. It was
Right. A
amazing.
lot of complaints from people that uh, I guess sometimes they're trolls, but they'll go through and see pictures like this, and they say, "Why couldn't you get a clearer picture?" I was told that many times, and that's their opinion. That's fine. We want to know why couldn't we get a clearer picture? Because what kind of camera was you shooting this with, Dan?
Sure. So this is a Sony full frame mirrorless camera. It's XA7. It's a great camera, and it's a super high end camera really, and it has a nice. I have a real nice lens on it. It's a G Master lens, so really good clarity. This craft was traveling, I would estimate, near 200 miles an hour, and it was close enough that it was, blurring as it was, because it was going so fast,
Right.
just like anything else would in front of you.
Well, my
So
excuse, Dan, is I tell people, I said, look, ETs don't pose for a picture. Neither do UFOs, so you got to get them when you can and when you see them, because it's just seconds a lot of times that you get, if you get a picture at all, like you got these pictures, you're really lucky. Go ahead, Dan.
yeah, and I mean, they're like the most of the pictures are elongated, and you can think of them as like, because of that, because the craft is traveling in that way. However, in this instance, for this particular craft, as I was recording this, I actually started to pan the camera just a little bit, a couple of times while the craft was traveling. And during my panning action, I caught, during just a couple of frames of video, I caught basically the same speed as it was. I matched it up. And during those frames of video, that's where those clearest frames are of this image right here, and this image right here these three actually were all taken from during the pan. So those are like clearly showing the actual shape of it. And, even though the other ones are elongated like this, and you're just seeing it from this other angle.
Yeah, you can see that some of these craft are triangular in shape, and that's what we see a lot of. I saw one triangular, huge craft in 2011, so it kind of reminds me of that. And the bright lights that they have on it, that's because it's causing you the pixelation in your camera. No matter how nice the camera, you sound like you have a nice camera, but no matter how nice you have, a lot of times when there's speed involved or lights involved, you're going to get pixelation, right, Dan?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, all cameras have to interpret the data, so they're gonna, do something with it. But the, getting a high end camera like that is the best that you can do. So this really reproduces the color frequency very accurately. So that's also a important thing for extraterrestrial. They each have their own individual color frequency.
You have another screen you're going to show, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So, I'll show my video of the backcraft for you now.
Right. Yes.
Great.
Go ahead and do that one. And this video will be about 7 minutes or so long, people. So it's narrated, so it'll be fine. He's already got it narrated into the film itself. So go ahead, Dan.
Thanks, Dave.
The video that you're about to see is 100% real and authentic. No alterations, CGI, AI, or Photoshop were used in the making of this video. In person, the craft looked like a large black metallic bat flying through the air, shooting lasers or some type of linear concentrated light and/or plasma ahead of it as it traveled. The laser-like beams were composed of green light from the left side of the craft and red light from the right. Occasionally, an orange light and/or plasma also projected from the middle of the craft. There is also occasionally a ball of light produced between the tips of the two main green and red laser-like beams. It was shooting these laser-like beams out in front of it, ahead of the craft a certain distance, and the next instant the craft would disappear from its current location and simultaneously reappear at the edge of where the laser-like beams had just stopped projecting forward. Then the laser-like beams would project forward again, a similar distance ahead, and the process repeated itself over and over again. The craft completed these micro advances very rapidly, literally teleporting to its new location 4 times in every second. On video, The craft morphs its shape or disappears with every micro-teleportation advancement. You can see the laser-like beams projecting forward and other light-based flashes pretty clearly, but the actual craft changes its shape constantly. Within a couple select frames, the craft outline is more apparent. I marked those spots as freeze frame 4 and freeze frame 5 in the last clip. During those specific frames of video, I was panning the camera in the direction that the craft was traveling at the time. Those particular moments most closely aligned with the craft's movements, resulting in clearer images of the craft. In the next section of video, each video frame is marked sequentially with the numbers 1 through 6. Each grouping of 6 frames represents 1/4 second in real time and showcases 1 micro-teleportation advancement. Each of the craft's progressions is individually unique. The craft displays a different pattern of light and color with each movement.
Okay, that's it basically. What I'm going to stop it right there, just to just point out a couple of things on that particular craft.
Right.
Uh,
Looks like
so
you have a lot
again,
of details in there, Dan. You have the height of the flying object, you have the size of it, and you're able to detail it. And that's it's very impressive. I like that video, Dan.
thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It was I would do a lot of a lot of work to do that, but it was worth it. I was
Right.
yeah. Yeah, I was able to measure or I was able to estimate the size of it based on aircraft that were in the area that I had recorded, so I could basically estimate the distance and from my place at a horizon, and then I could take the average speed of that craft and take like the best let's see, the best 10-second clip of it and average out the speed of it in order to get the speed. So it's about 84 feet and 200 miles an hour is what I ended up calculating. That's my closest estimate. There's a couple other, there's like a graph with a few ranges, where it could have been, but that's, about where it should be.
Well, our B-1 and B-2 bombers have a bat-like feature to them, except they don't have colors like that. That's the thing about they would just stay maybe with a couple of blinking lights and with a dark bat-like figure if they were B-1 bombers or B-2 whatever. But they don't change the colors. The colors makes the difference. Another observation I made, I saw a little orb moving in the screen. Was that a satellite orb?
That could have been a satellite. I see like, dozens and dozens of those types of, potential satellites or potential debris or other types of object. In some instances, they could be extraterrestrial craft, but it's not clear usually, and you'd have to kind of look up on a satellite chart or app in order to discern that. So because there's so many of them, I usually don't actually check if they don't turn or like stop or do anything that's, impossible for a satellite to do, I usually don't check them.
Yeah. Do you
I'm
have
not
more?
sure.
You have more pictures, or you want to return to full screen, or?
Yeah, I just wanted to basically point out with the backcraft here.
Okay.
So okay, yeah, I had shown you that this is basically what it looks like, right? And you can see in these other images that like this is the craft here. Here's the craft, right? And in like this one, you can see the craft back here. It's a little bit elongated, but you can see these laser-like beams. Those are in front of the craft. This is in front of the craft, and the craft is, this light illuminating object that's projecting this laser-like beam in front of it. So this laser-like beam is actually in front of the craft, and then in between those laser-like beams, on occasion, it has like this yellowish, orangey ball of light that emerges at various times. So this was, so amazing to see, and in person, I'd never even, it was like you had to see it to believe it almost, so even with the video.
That was in Wisconsin, right, Dan?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of sightings in Wisconsin for some reason. I guess the lakes bring them in.
yeah, yeah, sure. um, yeah, thanks, Dave.
Okay, you have more, or you want to go to another video? You have another.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. So yeah, that's it for the backcraft.
Okay.
uh, Thank you for that. So let's see here. Then in let's see here. Would you like to see the other hybrid craft now too?
Yeah. Yeah. How long is that? Is that a video? How long is that?
Yeah, the Auric ring craft is 6 minutes, 26 seconds.
Okay, let's run that real quick. It's got narration in it also.
Yes, it does.
You did a fine job of that too.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So these are a couple of pre-images of the craft that we're going to see here.
Mhm.
These are all the same craft, even though they all look like different, things or objects on the screen. This is all the same. This is all the same object. Here's a nice display of all of these different what it's going to look like. So this is a craft that I saw in my backyard in September of 2022. I was doing a CE-5, just a solo CE-5 by myself, and I'd gone outside, and it was a beautiful night, and I just started actually, So I was like shocked when I saw this, to be honest. I almost didn't even believe it because it happened so quickly. It literally happened less than 2 minutes into my meditation. This
Now these,
crash.
yeah, these craft here look like little corkscrews. Those kind of remind me of those little things that they capture on camera. What's those little squirrely looking things? It looks just like that, except
Yeah,
they're real small. I forget
yeah.
what they call them.
The sylphs, there's like spinning rods and sylphs.
Right. Yeah, rods. Yeah.
I didn't put that video. I didn't put my video of the sylph that I have, but I do have a video of a sylph. Actually, I didn't put it into this presentation material,
That's
but I
what
do have one.
yeah, that's what they look like though, those rods that they film, but they're real little. They're real small.
Yeah. Especially like this image right here, real similar to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, Dan, with your great production there.
The video that you're about to see is 100% real and authentic. No alterations, CGI, AI, or Photoshop were used in the making of this video. The object in the video is a real UFO being operated by an extraterrestrial, extradimensional, non-human intelligence. The craft uses an advanced form of propulsion that has never before been publicly documented. This video documents a very special encounter that I recorded with an extra-dimensional UFO that travels in an out-of-this-world kind of way. I was very surprised when I first saw this craft, partly because it showed up only 3 minutes and 21 seconds into my contact meditation, and I just thought, how could they have heard me already and gotten here? With my unaided eyes, I could not tell from the ground that the craft was traveling in such a strange way. It looked odd, and I got the feeling that it was extraterrestrial, but without being able to see it closer, I naturally questioned it. The craft was traveling from a pretty far distance away at the time. That made it challenging for me to discern the extraordinary propulsion system that is evident on video. As you will be able to observe on video, this craft travels in a unique manner. It appears to be projecting some type of auric rings in front of it, which seem to pull the craft through the atmosphere. The craft also has a fluid-like appearance to its movements, making it seem to be swimming through this dimension. I have never seen or heard of anything like this before other than the Batcraft, which also displays an exotic form of propulsion. This craft comes onto the screen from above the eastern skyline, just south of Taurus, then goes through Orion. This was recorded in Menominee, Michigan, which means that this UFO was flying over Green Bay and Lake Michigan at the time.
Yeah, Dan, I could see what you were talking about where it pulsates out in front of it. It looks like it's making its own little portal, or
Yeah.
it's just making a portal and jumping through it, and that's why you call it a dimensional craft. Is that why you called it that, Dan?
I call this one the Auric ring craft. So the way I understand this, okay, is this craft. So these crafts in general, these UFOs, they are extensions, living extensions of the extraterrestrial beings whom they are like the owners of, basically. So like the craft that you're seeing is like it's a part of their consciousness on a higher level. And um, so so yeah, this is they're taking part of their craft's aura because it's a being. The craft is a being, it has its own aura. So it's taking the craft's aura and it's projecting that aura in front of it and creating that ring-like shape. And that ring-like shape is its aura manipulating the space in front of it in order to basically detect it and then find whatever frequency of that location, and then it takes the location of that frequency, plugs it into the ship basically, and then the ship projects forward into that section of space, and no longer occupies the previous section. So that's how it's sort of teleporting, if you will, and that's why I call it the auric ring projection.
That's a
Projecting.
that's a good theory on that. It looks like exactly what you're talking about. But Dan, you said something about a propulsion system, and do you know something about the propulsion that they're using in these ships, Dan?
I mean, basically, what I just said is that this is their form of this is a form of teleportation technology that this particular civilization is using, in which they're using like the aura of their craft's spirit in order to prepare and sense the data of that space, and then they're basically just you can, because the location is a variable of any object, of any in space and time and everywhere. So if you change the locational variable within the object, you can teleport the object forward. So that's the idea that I understand.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's propulsion,
yeah,
teleporting, but propulsion. Now they're not necessarily coming into our dimension. They're probably traveling through, right, Dan?
yeah, they're kind of just they're like densifying themselves a little bit, just enough so that they can be subtly seen within this dimension. So they're not even fully materializing exactly, and that's why we see the craft sort of looking like it's like swimming or something like that. And it's not like it's a solid object. Almost, it looks like it's like liquidy or something, and it's looks like it's different shapes in all the different pictures and such.
Okay. You have any other pictures to show, or
Yeah, this is it for the auric ring craft. But yeah, so this these this is a contact symbol that I use in order to connect with that civilization, and the beings within that craft are known as the Pleyel, is what I call them. They're like they're like peaceful rebels, I guess you could say, here to help humanity.
and now we get back to spiritual, right? Helping humanity.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, okay, yeah. So yeah, I'll stop the screen share there for a minute. Get back to here.
Okay. All right. That that was some great video production. You did that all yourself, huh?
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. Yes, I did. Yeah,
Narration and
I
camera and all the specs that you had there at the end of that first one, especially. Uh, let's get back to now the face-to-face thing. You said, Dan, in August of 2022, you had a unique experience with a group of small extra dimensional avians. Avian, is that how you want to say it? Which look like small birds that flew in and out of portals in the sky. Could you explain that experience?
Yeah, so this is another interesting experience that I had had, and I've seen. This is the first. This is the first exotic creature like that I had seen, basically, and I that's yeah, I call them small extra-dimensional avians because they look like very small birds that are flying through sky, except these birds flew out of what I can only be described as a portal in the sky. So now when I saw these birds, I was in a extremely elevated state. Again, just like extraordinary appreciation, kind of similar to when I had my close encounter experience on board the craft years ago. And it was similar. I was at a music festival and I was on my way back to my tent, and I was just so appreciating, and I was feeling like at one with the universe in a complete and beautiful way that people describe sometimes. It was like a sort of an awakening, sort of an experience at the time for me. And so I remember like walking back towards my tent, and as I'm walking back, I just like everything that I saw, I connected with, and I just felt like one with in a beautiful way. The trees, the rocks, the mud, everything was just perfect. It just looked perfect. I could just tell. It just felt that way. And so as I'm in this like really amazing, blissed out sort of state, I'm looking around and I'm just like enjoying, life. And it's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. There's beautiful clouds. And all of a sudden I see these birds flying out of like a hole in the sky, basically, just a small portal. And they all came out of it at the exact same time, and they flew in really fast, and they were like dancing, what I would describe, in between and playing with each other as they were flying rapidly, really fast. And I'm watching these things do this, and I'm like, "What is this? Is amazing!" And these things had this I could only describe it as like a rainbow sheen luster on their feathers. So like they were glowing, a luminescent glow. Like they were glowing with a light glow of like red and blue specks, particularly, were flaking off of them and like falling off, like into the sky, off as they were flying by. It was just like I had never seen anything like this or heard of anything like this. Again, totally different and unique. I actually was like, when it happened, I had my camera not far, and I went and got my camera and I set it up and started recording, and they would not show up on video. You could not see them on the video. It was amazing. It was amazing. So it was a really crazy experience. I did get some like communication from them when I saw them, in the sense of they told me basically specifically that that this was like the first time that I was seeing them, and that I would see them again, and humanity would see them again, and that in the future they would help us.
Okay. Now that reminds me what you're talking about, these little avian birds. How about fairies and pixies? Does that come to mind also when you saw these birds, Dan?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, similar type of things. My mom has seen some of those, and some of my other friends that I do contact work with have closer relationships with elementals and the fae. Yeah, I haven't seen any fairies yet, but I've definitely experienced like orbs of light and what I would call nature spirits that are very close to them.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of UK buddies over there, and I have one on this week, Mark Ollie. Uh, they talk about the fairies, and there's some film or photographs of some of these fairies. They look like dragonflies in a way, but they have a human body instead of an insectoid body. So it's very interesting, and they say that fairies that go back in ancient Irish history, and they're for real. A lot of the people there in Ireland believe that they're real, and that's where they show up at a lot. But yeah, that's what reminded me when you were telling me the story about the birds. Now, what happened to the birds when you couldn't film them, so they flew back into their portal?
Yes. Yeah. They flew down through the portal and then they, flew around and danced and played kind of with each other. And they even like flew down near, like, there were other people at this event. Most of them were sleeping because this was in the early morning hours, but I don't think that anyone else could see them, seriously. So it was, yeah, but they flew back out through the portal that they came in at. So they would like fly in, fly around for a minute, and then fly back out through the portal again. And they were doing that on and off for like an hour and a half or so, probably.
Oh, so they look like little birds, actually, with those strange colors.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, tell me, what was your gut feeling? What message were they giving you? There had to have been some kind of a message, Dan, from another dimension.
Yeah, I mean, their primary message was that they like, hello, we're here. Nice to meet you. And they said, like, what I heard in my head when I saw them was, we're going to be here, or we're going to come back in the future. This is the first time that you're seeing us. We will be assisting humanity in the future with resources, and new resources and new species and other assistance, basically.
Okay, let's change up subjects. You have here some interesting stuff. I just covered this, uh, just a few days ago. You're a guardian and caretaker to Alien, Alien. I don't know how you pronounce that. A fully activated quartz crystal skull that is vibrationally tuned to the legendary 13 crystal skulls of Atlan and Atlantis and the Council of 13. Could you explain that, and what's your experiences with those crystal skulls? And like I said, we had a show just a few days ago about it, Dan.
Yes, I am a huge Crystal Skull fan, and I really loved that show. There was a lot of useful information in there. My friend Joshua Shapiro is a wealth of information. He wrote one of the most authoritative books on the subject of crystal skulls that exists, Mystery of the Crystal Skulls Revealed. And so, yeah, I had basically felt a couple years ago that I needed a crystal skull in my life for, my path of destiny. And I got this, I guess there's, so I have, in my research of spiritual things and earth history and those sorts of subjects, I came upon the legend of the 13 crystal skulls of Aslan, which is also known as Atlantis. So the 13 crystal skulls of Aslan, Atlantis, are said to have been instrumental in organizing and like leading the civilization of Atlantis into the golden age that it achieved. Atlantis, from what I understand, would have been run by a council of elders of 13 with their crystal skulls, who would get together at sacred locations on the planet and bless the earth and each other and their civilization, and with magical rituals and communing with the land and extraterrestrials and extradimensional beings.
Yeah, when I talked to Joshua Shapiro, I asked him about the total number of crystal skulls. I said, "Are there 12?" I thought there were 12, but he said they're all over the planet. Crystal skulls are all over the planet. So there are 13 main crystal skulls. And do we have any of those in possession? I don't think Joshua, can't really confirm that the crystal skulls that they got are the real ones. Are the real ones really hidden, and we haven't found them yet, Dan?
Well, that is up for debate, and to each their own as far as what they choose and to believe, and what makes sense and resonates for them, because there are very different opinions on that subject. Mm-hmm. I do have a personal opinion because of my own experiences with the crystal skulls, that for me it's confirmed that, like, now I guess before I even say that, let me just say, like, I believe that there's multiple timelines. So when other people believe that something else, that's fine. That might be true for them in their timeline. So, but just to clarify that part of it. So, yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think that the crystal skulls, the legend of the crystal skulls, the 13 crystal skulls is real. And I basically, I know it is unequivocally from my experience, I guess I would say, just because of what happened when I did my ritual to them and such like that. So, um, yeah. So basically, the 13 crystal skulls of Aslan, I'm not sure if any of the 13 have been discovered per se, but I will say that so the British Museum skull, the skull that's in the Smithsonian, and the Mitchell Hedges skull are all definitely potentially, potentially could be part of those. My belief is that the Mitchell Hedges skull specifically is a copy of what's known as the master skull. So the master skull is like the main middle central skull that has all of the powers and energies of all of the other 12 skulls within it. And that skull is still at the heart of Atlantis under the ocean. So the Mitchell Hedges skull, from what I understand, is the copy of that skull. So it is allowed to travel and go to different places and imbue them with its sacred energies. But it's
yeah. Joshua Shapiro said he had several, I guess, experiences with crystal skulls, and they kind of brought him back memories, and actually, I guess, brought his deceased wife back into talking to him or whatever. But what kind of experiences have you had, Dan, with any of these crystal skulls? And are they the second thing I want to ask? Are they kind of like a memory chip, a computer memory chip? They have all the memories stored into their quartz, Dan?
yes. Yeah, they're absolutely memory chips. They are forms of consciousness themselves, for sure. I would say that the crystal skulls, the 13 specifically, are what I would call the guides to the collective consciousness of humanity at this time.
Now, you say that you are now part of a couple of beautiful groups of crystal skull guardians and energy workers that meet regularly to actively create the next golden age of humanity. You have a couple of groups that you meet with, Dan. Is that what you're saying that you about these crystal skull things? Has Joshua Shapiro, has he talked to you guys or met with you?
Yeah, yeah. I do a meditation with Joshua. He runs a group that's a monthly group with also he co-runs that with Harry and Kathy from the Crystal Skull Conclave. And on the 13th of every month, on the 13th hour, they do a special meditation, a group meditation in honor of the 13. So, yeah, and then I also do work with another group of people that is basically our goal is to create the new golden age in humanity using crystal skulls and crystal skull consciousness. And
Yeah, I just, I think that's great that you get involved in these types of things, especially you're exploring everything that you kind of started off with your near death experience and then your UFO encounter, alien encounters and all, it just tells me that you're a typical experiencer that wants to grow and you reach out for everything that's mysterious and find out, the curiosity of the world. And that's where I'm at also, and I'm glad that you're doing it because you're helping enlighten people. You're also doing a lot with the solo CE-5s. You said you've done a lot of contact missions for yourself for the last few years. You've also been administering a CE-5 group in your local community called Menominee. Is that an Indian name? You might want to clear that up in the Michigan area CE-5. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
yeah, sure, Dave. Just to finish up with the crystal skulls, to explain a little bit more about just finish up with that and explain more what happened there.
Right.
So when I took my crystal skull I took it to a sacred location that's known as Ostalan. It's a sacred Native American mound site. It's the largest earthen pyramid mound in Wisconsin. And that place is connected to the core of Gaia. It is a sacred ley line location.
Yeah, you had a picture of that earlier. You showed me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can show a picture if you're
Oh,
if you want.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Go
Let's
back to that file. That'd be great.
yeah, let's take a look at that once.
Kind of looks like Cahokia Mounds, in which a lot of people in Southern Illinois area knows all about.
So this is Ostalan,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a beautiful place, wonderful energy. The first time I went there, I had amazing experiences with my CE-5 group. Recorded lots of different interactions in the sky, and I felt compelled and drawn and like to bring my crystal skull here because it was actually named after the civilization of Atlantis. It's the name of Astalan is very close to the original name of Atlantis, which was Aslan. So it's just one letter away, and it has a special connection to that place. And so I knew that by bringing my crystal skull there and performing a sacred ritual, I would be able to connect with the 13. And so I went to this place and I set my show a this is a another image of it, but I set up my crystal skull like this on top of that mound, and I performed a sacred ritual. And when I performed this ritual, I called upon the 13. And when I called upon the 13 crystal skulls of Aslan, I placed my hand on the back of the crystal skull, and the crystal skull started to vibrate and shake physically.
Yeah.
And it shot this amazing energy into my body, and I could actually feel that this energy was coming from the core of the earth, and it gave me this amazing energy and sort of a vision at the time. And then I let's see, took my hand off of it, and then I was like kind of freaking out for a couple minutes. I put my hand back down on it again, and it did it again. It started vibrating and shaking, and the skull now, because of how hard it vibrated, the corners of it are actually rounded off and are rough. So it actually took a small piece of that large. It's a large quartz crystal, like a set of quartz crystal, a large set of quartz crystals, in that it's sitting on, and it actually broke a couple of those chunks off of it because it vibrated again so hard.
Wow. Now, was this coming from the ground? And that is that an Indian burial mound, just like in Cahokia Mounds? Is it kind of a burial place? Okay.
Yeah, it's exactly the kind of place it is. And yeah, and the ground and the earth didn't move exactly, but I could literally feel that this energy, like I could feel the directional energy coming from the core of the earth. And I got a vision at the time directly from the core of the earth, basically. So that's the best way I can describe it. So it felt like the core of the earth was telling me that I had like contracted basically to do this at this time specifically and activate this center of the earth at this time, basically. Okay. And it gave me also like a vision of like things that I was to do in the future, which ended up happening and are in the process of happening, have been scheduled basically. So
well, actually you were combining the technology, or I guess the science of the crystal skulls and your CE-5 in a combination of both.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So that's yeah, this is my
so do your ET friends, are they attracted to quartz crystal? I heard that that certain quartz crystals like amethyst, like I have, is a peaceful healing type crystal, and the other crystals, pink crystals. Joshua told me a lot about the different types, but I forget them. There's been so much information that he put out there. But have you had any sightings after you have these crystals out, Dan?
Oh yeah.
You did.
Yeah, I actually had 44 different sightings the night that that happened with my crystal skull. So yeah, the extraterrestrials showed up big time to let me know that yes, like they support this, and this is a big part of what they want me to be doing, sort of. So
The
yeah,
frequency off of these crystals are, I guess you can actually read them sometimes, but they have to be charged some way, right? I mean, there has to be some kind of a charge that hits them in order to super inflate the energy that comes off of them, I guess, Dan. And you said there's a vibration from the ground that actually supercharged your crystal skull, so it was receiving energy. So a particular frequency or an energy is what we have to find to communicate with these crystal skulls, I would believe, right, Dan?
absolutely, absolutely,
And
yeah.
we haven't found it yet, right?
Well, some people have, some people, are still working on it. I'm able to get like, my crystal skull is always working with me. A Leon is always working with me. He's always right next to me, and he's always giving me ideas and stuff like that. But yeah, and these crystals, the extraterrestrials can talk to them and get the history of the crystal from wherever that crystal was located on the planet, because they're ancient and they hold information and knowledge and history. So yeah, that's one of the big things extraterrestrials like to do.
Okay. All right, we're nearing the hour and a half, I guess, in the show. I want to close out by you talking about the groups that you have that you're working with, and maybe tell people the names of those groups. I don't know if you want to, you have websites or anything you want to talk about also, Dan?
Sure. Yeah, let's bring it back. Okay, so yeah, I also do I also run the a local group of CE-5 contacts. It's called Menominee, Michigan area CE-5. We're on Facebook. We do events in the summer and fall, both public and private, advanced or beginners. And one of the other things that I always do every year is I am a presenter and I help organize the Big ARB Contact Modalities Tour. My dear friend Melissa Kane runs that, and it's a amazing time every year. Last year, I did a 2.5 hour presentation showcasing all of my best UFO encounters and explaining my personal contact modalities to the attendees there. We always have amazing contacts and abundant communication from our star family. And last year, I did my first ever seance there, which was really cool. I got some apported gemstones from one of the same mediums and another medium as well that Joshua Shapiro had gotten his apported skull from. Um, so
Tell
yeah.
me, you've had all these experiences. You got crystal skull experiences. You have the crystal technology working with you, and you have ETs and UFOs that you've seen. You've been involved with. Do you have paranormal activity at your house, Dan?
Um, not really, not really. I sometimes get some sort of attachments or some things like that that might try to bug around or sit around, but I can easily get rid of them, and I cleanse my space frequently and don't have any sort of, stuff like that really. Uh,
So yeah, you don't have those little things that go bump in the house at night. You ever?
No, I mean I do have like friendly visitors though. I mean I have plenty of like sometimes actually Mitchell Hedges crystal skull visits me sometimes in like what I would call the astral form of it. So sometimes it will like kind of appear in my third eye or my consciousness in a way. And other crystal skulls have appeared for me too at different times. Joshua Shabir has this blue crystal skull that appears for him sometimes, and I have an aquamarine crystal skull that comes to me sometimes. So I have things like that, and I also have like visitors, like extraterrestrials, that are constantly just kind of stopping in sort of a way. When they pop in, it's kind of like a energy or like an energy will shift in the room, and I'll see something out of the corner of my eye, like something kind of moving or whatever, and it's like it's not in this dimension. So, but you'll get if you're tuned in, you will get you can get a little bit of a glimpse of it if you're tuning into it.
Yeah, if you take a camera might pick them up, but your bare
Yeah,
eyes will be able to pick them up. They're usually invisible. ETs can be invisible, moving through your walls and coming in. And I've had experience with that. But the camera picks them up. I had a trail camera that, those motion sensor that actually picked up, that movement or the shapes of these ETs, but I couldn't see them. They could be
Yeah.
right beside you and you wouldn't know it. You could feel the energy, and if you take a tri-field meter, that tri-field meter will peg out. It's like you're picking up all these magnetic anomalies. I also have magnets beside my bed, but I think I'm going to take them away, people. Because I've been having dreams, but they're not dreams of going to another dimension or ETs or any regression of my ET experiences. They're actually kind of like homey type, people that I know or friends that I know, and some of them were sad dreams. So I'm thinking I'm going to take those magnets away and just let the natural frequencies of the extraterrestrials help me regress my dreams. So yeah, so have you ever had that experience, Dan, with using magnets or whatever?
Yeah, I use my crystal skull
Yeah.
for for my dream buddy. I always, when I'm going to sleep, I basically look at it and kind of meditate as I'm going to sleep, and then and that's my permission slip or tool, to enter, that kind of to try to to bring it with me into the dream.
No. But you don't magnetize them. You don't stick magnets.
No,
No.
no, I use the magnets.
And maybe that's what's causing that reverse bad energy for me. I'm magnetizing that amethyst, crystal, but because it's supposed to be peaceful and healing. But if you magnetize them, you're putting different energy on them. They may function differently. Scary, maybe, Dan. Yeah.
One idea for you is if you bury that amethyst for a couple of weeks, it will absorb some of the earth energy and ground itself, and then make it more calming, for sure.
Really? And I heard stories of putting it in water, and that intensifies its radiance. So who knows? I don't experiment too much with crystals, because I've gotten into the ET topic so much, and I've had so many experiences with that. Seeing 6 up close UFOs and meeting 3 ETs face to face, and meeting another 3 or 4 in my regressed dreams and very lucid dreams. So, and my book has those in the book. So that's been my thing. But the crystals, I've always been, like you said earlier in the show, that I do take an interest in all this stuff. It all has something to do with frequencies. It all has something to do with us as being humans, and our souls being energy. It's all energy frequencies, right, Dan?
Exactly, Dave.
Okay. And in closing, what would you like to tell people, that what your experiences were? Mr. Dan Schroeder, go ahead and tell people what your last closing thoughts are.
Sure. The most important thing that I can say is that the extraterrestrials are our family. They're here to reunite with us in peace, and to remind us more of who we truly are inside, and to help us learn to believe in ourselves, and to love each other, and to forgive each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that is my primary message that I like to leave people with, is just that the extraterrestrials are here in peace, and there's nothing to be afraid of.
Okay. In the narration, when I post the video, which will be in about two days or so, 3 days ago, because I try to get the videos in line, let them play out for 3 days, and then put in another show. That way, it gives these shows an opportunity for people to see the shows. So Dan Schroeder, thank you for coming on the show, and some great video. I really enjoyed that, the pictures and video, and you do a good job on production. That's Dank Studios, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good sharp name, but you put dank like it's like a dank and musty basement or something. What's that? Is there a meaning to that?
It can be used a few different ways. These
Oh.
days, I like to think of it as like thankful in Danish.
Okay, that's good. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dan Schroeder. And this is Schroeder. I'm sorry, but this has been Dave Emmons and A Strange Reality. And we thank you for stopping in and listening. And we hope you enjoy the show, and give us some comments, and I'll put the narrative and how you can contact Dan. All righty. Good night, everybody.